Peace and welcome to our top 10 modern shmup themes. When we say modern, we mean basically anything disc-based or newer. If you want to see our top 10 retro or chiptune themes, look for this video here. Our guidelines today include shmup games only, one per franchise, and modern or disc-based games. Now that we got that out of the way, let's get this started. Our first up is from Panzer Dragoon. Here is the main theme. Arranged and composed by Yoshitaka Azuma, who passed away in 2012. Most of his music isn't from video games, but he did complete the first two Panzer Dragoon soundtracks, although this theme only appears on the first. Coming from the Sega Saturn, this isn't the first CD console on the market. It's not even the first by Sega. But I think the Sega Saturn, as well as the PS1, were the first consoles to really take advantage of the CD format. Of course, advances in technology helped, but around this era is when we started to see full-fledged CD soundtracks and not just MIDI or chiptune. This is an epic theme. The horns and the rest of the instruments all come together to give me the feeling of a medieval story. Maybe similar to Lord of the Rings or Conan the Barbarian. This remained exclusive to the Sega Saturn until 2020 when a remake was released. The next one up on our countdown today comes from Einhander, and its theme titled Bloody Battle. Coming from the 1997 PlayStation exclusive with music arranged and composed by Kenichiro Fukui, who was a member and keyboardist in the band The Black Mages, who he formed with Nobuo Uematsu. This one gets better the longer it goes. It starts out with a basic riff, just 4 notes repeating, but then around the 50-second mark, the instruments, the tempo, and its high energy make a good combination with games that feature a lot of action. It almost goes full Streets of Rage. Basically, the whole vibe of the theme feels like some Yuzo. Let's test it out with some Streets of Rage. Number 8 comes from Jamestown, Legend of the Lost Colony, a theme titled Lost Temple of Croatoa Suite. First released in 2011 with the soundtrack arranged and composed by Francisco Cerda. One interesting note I found, the composer started making music for video games when he was 14. He created his own game and his own soundtrack. A piece that gives off a strong Final Fantasy VII vibe. It seems to have some influence from the Sephiroth theme. It has a choir, uses some of the same instruments and sounds, and it lasts over 9 minutes. Alone, it may not remind me of Final Fantasy, but there are a few other themes on the soundtrack that kind of tie it all together. Lucky number 7 is held by Battle Garegga, the Stage 5 theme, Subversive Awareness. Arranged and composed by Manabu Namiki, a composer known for his work on shmup games. And if you look at his resume, there is a ton of games, and a good amount of those are shoot-em-ups. I would say Manabu Namiki is to shoot 'em ups as Yuzo Koshiro is to beat 'em ups. Yuzo holds the Guinness World Record for beat 'em up games composed for, and I wonder who holds that record for shoot 'em ups. I'm not sure Guinness has that subject yet, but my money would be on Manabu Namiki. When it comes to this theme, technically it's a chiptune, but it was released on the PS1 and the Sega Saturn, with an option to switch back and forth between the original and arranged soundtracks. The original being from the 1996 arcade game that uses a Yamaha YM2151 sound chip. In 2016, a new and updated version of the game was released, and luckily for us, it also came with an updated soundtrack. Number 6 is from Mamorukun Curse, the boss battle theme. Arranged and composed by Yosuke Yasui, and first released in 2008 in arcades, then later for the Xbox and PS3. This is a real action-packed theme that almost gives me a Melty Blood or maybe an early Tekken feel. I think this would be a good fit in a fighting game. And after listening to a lot of different themes for these last 2 top 10 lists, in my opinion, fighting games and shmups have a lot in common when it comes to the music. Usually it's a game that requires concentrating, and if you slip up once or twice, you'll need to try again. The music may be intense and usually has a faster tempo. In at number 5, we have Psyvariar 2, the last boss theme. First released in November 2003, with later releases on a few different consoles, all of them in 2004. This theme, and only this theme, was composed by Or808, and they make sure to tell you exactly what he did once you reach the credits. This track has a real unique vibe, and there are many different aspects that I like, but the main thing would just be the piano. It's easily my favorite part. This theme really packs a punch, and it's a shame the composer only did this. I looked up other work under his credits, but it looks like this is the only game he actually did music for. So I looked some more and I found a SoundCloud, which I will include a link to in the description. But the first track on his page is a Last Boss remix. So here's a quick snippet. At our unlucky number 4 spot, we have Sol-feace on the Sega CD. oldest game on our list today, first released in 1990 for the Sharp X68K, then ported to the Sega CD in 1991. And that's the soundtrack we will be talking about today, because to this day, we still use the Red Book audio standard. This game gets a bad rap, especially after the nerd called it sol-feace. But it's not a terrible game. I would give the gameplay around maybe a 6 out of 10. However, the music gets more around an 8 out of 10. Also, it's a rather cheap game. I found mine for around $5. The soundtrack was composed and arranged by Motoi Sakuraba, an excellent composer and someone who we plan on doing a top 10 for. This theme of his really fits shmup games. I could hear this on Gradius, Life Force, or any other number of shmups. And don't forget to listen to that bass line. In our bronze position today, we have a theme titled Ruin from Radiant Silvergun. Arranged and composed by Hitoshi Sakimoto. I really enjoy his musical style. It has a very unique vibe. And if you thought of Final Fantasy Tactics when you heard this one, there's a good reason why. He composed for a few different Tactics games. A fantastic theme that helps build the intensity. It may not sound like your typical theme from a shmup game, but that just helps it stand out. I know I already mentioned Final Fantasy Tactics, but that's one of my favorite soundtracks. Anything that's similar gets a thumbs up from me. You can also hear some of the same musical techniques in both. If you like the Tactics soundtrack, then I recommend this one. In our silver spot is the Stage 1 boss theme from Ikaruga. This entire soundtrack was composed by Hiroshi Iuchi. He's a man of many talents. If you take a look at some of his credits, you will see anything from backgrounds to characters, and of course, music. First released in Japan in December of 2001, you can find this in arcades as well as on many different consoles. All of them being disc-based besides that good old Nintendo Switch. I really like the orchestral feel, it's high quality and definitely takes advantage of the CD audio. I think this one could fit in many different situations. I could see an army marching into battle, or maybe the battle already going on. I like pretty much everything about this one, all the way down to the instrument selection. And before we get to number 1, we have our honorable mentions. Our gold position may come as a surprise, but this series has great music. From Touhou 15, Legacy of Lunatic Kingdom, the Frozen Capital of Eternity, the Stage 4 theme. An epic theme that jams pretty much from beginning to end. I think the Touhou series has some of the best music in gaming, not just limited to shmups. I went with this one because of the sheer depth. You could remove the horns and still have a rockin' track. And I think the piano really takes this track to another level. It sets the bar high. I think you could find a theme as good as this, but it's gonna be difficult to find one that is just flat out better. I really enjoy the vibe this one gives off. This is the type of track that could have vocals, but it's gonna have to be good vocals because it really doesn't need them. It's extremely good as is. So there you have our top 10 modern and disc-based shmup themes. Thanks to everyone who commented. Our next top 10 will be our top 10 themes by Manami Matsumae. Last but not least, big shout out to gold level patrons, Bearsona, Quantum X, and Chris Hayes. I am ICC, thanks for watching, peace.